6 Select Committee, Congressman Adam Schiff. He's also the chairman of the House Intelligence Committee, and he's the author of the new bestseller, Midnight in Washington, How We Almost Lost Our Democracy and Still Could. Congressman, what's your message to the vast majority of your Republican colleagues who voted against holding Steve Bannon in contempt?
Well, if they think they can do a carve-out here and essentially exempt one of the former president's friends without eviscerating Congress's power of oversight, they're wrong. Either we're all in this together, either the rule of law applies to everyone equally, or we lose out on a fundamental aspect of our democracy, that the rule of law applies to everyone and no one is above that law. So they're undermining their own institution, they're undermining a system of checks and balances, and they're continuing the damage that they did in pushing the big lie about the election.
Republican Congressman Jim Banks scoffed at the idea that Steve Bannon had advanced knowledge of the January 6th attack, saying, and I'm quoting him now, every American knew that violence was a possibility that day. What's your reaction to that?
Well, first of all, if Steve Bannon has nothing to say and nothing to fear, then why is he obstructing Congress and refusing to testify? So let's find out what he knows. I mean, clearly he had a reason to say that he thought all hell was going to break loose when it did. And he was in communication with the president. He may know something about who organized these rallies and what the expectation was in terms of violence, what the participation was going to be among these white nationalist groups. There's one way to find out, and that's to put him under oath at this point. If he doesn't, I hope that the Justice Department will put him in jail. Well,
speaking of the Justice Department, the Attorney General, Merrick Garland, testified today that the Justice Department will apply the facts and the law, his words, to consider your referral to hold Bannon in contempt. If the Department of Justice declines to prosecute him, where would that leave your overall investigation?
Well, I think it would be a real body blow. If they do apply the facts to the law, I think it's actually quite simple. Because Steve Bannon has no absolute right of immunity to somehow just simply fail to show up. He also has, I think, no valid executive privilege claim to assert. And even if he did, he would need to come before the Congress and specify which question, which document the former president was formally asserting privilege. None of that happened. So the facts couldn't be clear. The law also couldn't be clearer. And to me, this is an early test of whether our democracy is recovering. If the Justice Department shrugs and says we're not going forward, they're inviting other contempt of law by other individuals, not just contempt of Congress, but contempt of the law more generally. And I just don't think that's where the Garland Justice Department wants to go.
How soon will your select committee decide whether to pursue contempt for other witnesses, for example, Mark Meadows, Dan Scavino, or Kash Patel?
As soon as we decide that we're getting nowhere in terms of our discussions with counsel. If we feel that we're merely getting stalled for time, they're playing rope-a-dope with us, we won't hesitate to move forward with a contempt. But if we can work it out and secure the testimony without having to bring up a criminal contempt charge, that is certainly our preference.
Congressman Adam Schiff, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you, Wolf.